Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. We're continuing our journey for fantasy football 2024 preseason. Again, my top-down view, and this is how I approach it. And we're on part 3 here of running backs. This is some data that I generated. Figures, graphs. I'm going to kind of go through and try to highlight some points. This is the kind of thing where you'll probably want to hit my lessons multiple times or take notes. There's so much material coming, and I've already gone through that you will not be able to have it all fingertip knowledge in your drafts. So I suggest you find a process to deal with this information. We're doing part 3 here. Let's see, what are we doing here? Here we go. So I switch back and forth between rounds and ADP sectors, rounds being ADP draft rounds. So in this case, I'm dividing each round into halves, and I show the position here, 1 to 6, 7 to 12, these kind of things. And probably not surprising, last, few years, looks like the first 3 rounds have been rather good. If you look at the overall over the last 9 years, this is the average for each year, and each year's broken down. 2015 was a lean year for first round. We haven't seen that, goodness. But the idea that you could never see it clearly is not true. So if any of the pundits or sites you're looking at don't remind you that, everything seems safe until it's not, right? Well, 2015 was the not. Top 1 to 6, 2016 was a not. Everything else, it's been fairly good. So it's easy to forget. And you're under the assumption that what happened last time will happen again. That's the trickiest thing ever. Most likely, it's going to be, continued good year for early RBs. I think I had that discussion last time, but you never know till you do it, right? So just, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. And again, I think you look at some areas of the draft, 97 to 102. 102 to 108. Notice there was a spike up, and that's probably close to the 9th round. I think we've talked about that. There it is again. Red is bottom 30%, green top 30, clear, no color, mid 40. So you can go through and kind of think about what's gone on before and just kind of almost get a feel for the safety. Clearly after round 3, gets a little tricky. I mean, if we just looked at that data from about 37 down here to say right before draft 9, there's a lot of negative. Now, I know in recent years it's been mids to tops. There's been a few cases of negative, but it's been smooth sailing. So what always worries me is this idea that it's all good and I have nothing to worry about, right? I'm in the middle of a minefield and I don't even know it. And you can't explain that enough. And that you can't draft scared, but you've got to draft with a little bit of sweat running down, thinking, what we got here? People do best balls, people do mock drafts, these kind of things to kind of relieve this cognitive dissonance, but you don't ever want to forget about it. And I'm not sure that has been clarified out there by the so-called experts. It amuses me that it's like the elephant in the room and nobody wants to say there could be, these so-called sleeper picks and all this other jargon. And I call it jargon because we don't have a scientific society to really establish weights, measures in fantasy football informatics. It's just not done. Every person, so-called pundit, coming out of the woodwork defines things differently. In horse racing, we called it red boarding. It's after the fact you talk about how you knew this, right? And that's why Fantasy Receipts on Twitter cranks people up, because some of these silly statements they proclaim, Fantasy Receipts post them out a year later or so and said, no, you didn't quite say that, did you? So draft like Fantasy Receipts is watching you, right? Whatever it takes. But you can think about sectors. To me, the first 3, maybe 4 rounds, you're probably going to do okay. The next few rounds starts to get tricky, and by the last rounds, it's pretty rare. Yeah, you could see a couple times it's worked. That's great. Were you around to collect those rare situations? Most likely past about round 10, you're lucky to be getting an RB that's in the mid rounds. I mean, the mid percentiles. Okay, this idea you're going to pick a, RB1, probably not. Just the numbers say no. So just get used to it. Spending too much time looking for what doesn't exist, right? See, there you go. I guarantee you, if you go fishing, it would be nice to know there's fish in the pond, right? Maybe it's a pond that never was stocked or something. You need to know beforehand what the success level. So that's how I kind of use this big picture, why I colorize. Just for me, when I look at this, to think about things. And if you only looked at 2023, you'd be like, wow, it's all gravy time, to about ADP 78, all gravy time. And that's just not the case. Yes, last year it did happen. 2022, there were less success after about round 48. Okay, but there were still mid tiers. 21, there were still mid. 2020, in this same kind of mid block, we had some serious failures at that point. And 2019 failures. 2018 wasn't too bad. 2017 was extra sad. Okay, the world blew up there in these sectors. 2016, there was also some issues. So you can kind of feel like what sector you're moving at. So each area of the draft needs to have your plans. Okay, I know people talk about values. If your diary says you're good at that, then you probably don't need to pay attention to this, but I don't believe it. Okay, you need to realize the amount of fish in the pond before you go fishing. Is there a lot of fish? Are they biting or not? Okay, so you need to know that. Another way to do that, and I love these trend lines, 15 to 23 into the season versus the ADP sectors. ADP sectors in the y-axis, the x-axis, y-axis, or the actual end of the season points. And let's see, the orange was 2023. So let's just see, I like to physically trace that. Look at that. So it's going down. Looks like about round 3. So you're declining, and then, whoa, there's that 9th round, 10th round pop, and then a serious decline. So that's kind of last year. Let's see, 2021, a little bit sad early, but you got some goodies, and then a decline. And then we had a pop around 79 to 90, a little bit early pre-9th round. Let's see, blue was 2015 straight line. So there that is. So 0 RB worked well. If I say things enough, you'll remember it too. So that's another lesson. 2018, boy, I hope you got yours guys early, because it was sadness. Look how far they dropped down. A little bit of uptick here. Okay, these upticks here, but then a decline at that point. Another way to look at it is the box and whiskers. ADP sectors first to 1/50th versus years. This is just looking at the year populations. Here was 2023, and I show the overall top, mid, and bottom for 2023, and you can compare each year. So no other year had a high box top like 2023. So this is the area you were drafting in. 2022 wasn't too bad close. 2019 was close, but then other years, extra sad. We had a lot of variation. The longer the box, the more of variation there is. So anytime I see large boxes, anytime I see depressed box tops, anytime I see short whiskers, that gives me some insight into what happened that year. But expecting 2024 to be 2023, you shouldn't. Okay, look at the preceding 8 years before that. So I think that hammers it home. 15 to 19, extra sad, and then we were starting to move up, and then here is the last, here's 19. So 19 is kind of this break point. So early sadness, 15 to 18, 19 here, 19 compared to the recent years. Very intriguing if you look at that. Yep. So again, I looked at draft sectors and I flipped the disc and allow you to look down from the top to the bottom sectors. And again, here's that uptick here, 97 to 100, and even 103 to 108. Not too bad. Okay, so something's happening right in here that requires your suggestion. But after that point, rut row. So again, thinking you're going to find these 5 boxes, which are very rare in this sector. A lot of time wasted, in my opinion. Yeah, if there's some that pop out and your diary shows that, great. Again, this is the kind of figure you want. We can stretch this out, I guess, a little bit to make it a little bit easier to figure out. Again, these are all tools that I use to remind myself, go back through it closer to draft time. Okay? You've just got to do it this way, I think. It's what I do. I start breaking down sectors. Here's first round, 15 to 23. And here is, in blue, 1 to 6. Looking at the different years. So again, the late round QB, a lot of failures, 15 and 16 first round. (2015) back half first round exercise. So we had both here way below. Pink line is kind of towards that area we would kind of like to be, right in there. So 2016, getting a little better on the back end of the round 1. Still sad on the first 6. So imagine that 2014, I don't know what it was. Could you have predicted 2015? 2015 show you 2016? Look how much better it got, 17. Look at 18, 19, 20, drop down a little bit, 21, then back. So, last few years, it's been all good, top 6 RBs. There's been a lot more steadiness in the back half of round 1 in the last few years, since about really almost 2016. So as far as variation, less variation in the back half of round 1 versus the first half. A lot more roller coaster variation. So right away, first 6 picks, 7 to 12. So if you're picking 1 to 6 versus are you picking 7 to 12 in your drafts? It's not the same. Okay? So you need to think about your choices if you want to grab an RB. Realize the inherent variation and the differences between these 2 half rounds. That's why I love this figure as well. Let's see, how far am I going? Oh, okay, I'll finish this. Second round. Overall, I think we've had kind of a roller coaster on the first half and then a decline. Last year was sad compared to most years. Back half of round 2, it's been all good. In fact, it's been getting better. Look at that. Yes. So again, based on your draft, where are you going through the rounds? These figures may help you think about things. If you think of lack of uncertainty as being safer, probably is. Certainly you would think it would be a little safer. I think the average is around 222 or something. So we were doing pretty good in the back half. So right now, I think the first half, round one, if you hit right, it's going to, can pay off. But there's some landmines. Whereas the back half of round one, pretty steady, staying above the pink for the most part. Round two, back half, staying above the pink in the last few years, but not too bad. Okay. Wow. Notice where the pink line is round one, round two, round three. We were lucky to get above that benchmark number. Okay, a few years we did, but look how rare it gets. So this idea you can wait to the third round, this data says it's harder to do. Not saying you can't, but just on average, it's going to be very hard to do. The back half and the front half of round three really haven't been different in the last 5 years. Okay, if you look at the blue versus the orange. 18, 17, 16, 15. Big difference, 16. But other than that, they've been pretty close together. Okay. Notice second round, not as close. Third round, not as close. In fact, you can't see any where the first and the first half, back half are so close together. Look in round three. It's almost the same. It's like, don't worry about it. It's the third round. They're going to, there's no distinguishing in each half. Fourth round, now we got some differences again. So it looks to me each round is giving us a different pattern of how we're drafting versus the end of the year. Each one's different. Fourth round, here's the pink. Looks like the first part of round four was really nice. It hasn't been that way the last few years. Okay, they've been the same or a little bit different here if you look at the space. But what skewed this number up so much is look at 2022. Wow. So third round, fairly constant last 5-6 years. Here, not so much. That's my dog. He's happy. Shh. Hey, be good. Okay, it's round four. Round five, you're not going to get above this pink line. So round four, we got a shot at getting above the pink. A less shot. It almost seems round four, you might have, if you look at how many are above the pink, 1, 2, 3. Not a lot. Round two, how many above the pink? 1, 2, 3. So in some ways, if you use the benchmark like that, round two, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lots. Round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, 11. It's not as big as you would think for round one versus two. That's another takeaway. You've got to look at these things multiple times. You really do. Okay, so round five, nobody other than one time did we get close to the pink line, which is kind of average for these early rounds. Right in here's where you want to be above that. Not much different in the first and the back half, round five. So I stopped there just to give you an idea. I'm not sure we're getting a lot more information. So the idea that each draft round for RBs is the same and the same results and it's not worth paying attention to, I would argue that's not the case. Not the case at all, folks. Remember, I think we're tracking opinions. Remember, this is the public. This is what the public is seeing. We're comparing ourselves to the public. We're trying to figure out what they're thinking. Because most likely, most of your league, people won't say that, right? Everybody drives above average, that old joke. Same thing. Same thing here. Above average. Okay, I think I'll stop here, 25 minutes. This is part 3. I guess I'm going to have part 2 here. I'm sorry, part 4 coming really soon. But anyway, I'll stop here. For the science of fantasy football, my name is Dr. John Bush. Each round is not the same.